What's a loophole you found and exploited the hell out of? Not me, but my best friend growing up. When he got his driver's permit at 15, the state somehow messed up his DOB and his ID said he was 25. It took him about 30 seconds to realize what this mistake meant. He essentially had a legal fake ID and spent 2 to 3 years making money by buying other kids alcohol and charging them a ridiculous markup. I have no idea how no one ever stopped him, as he had braces and was clearly not even 18, let alone 25. But alas, when he finally got his license, they actually messed up his DOB again, but caught it and corrected it before he left. One of the pop machines at my high school, filled with bottled water only, would spit out multiple bottles if you hit enough buttons fast enough. They were straight down in a row, so if you put in $1, you could easily get 2 to 3 each time. I got good enough at it to be able to get 6+ each time on $1. Ended up giving most of them away and keeping 1 or 2 for myself for the day. They eventually fixed it after I had taught half my graduating class how to do it. It got to the point where if you found it filled up, you'd put $4 in and clean it out because that was your only chance. In Canada we have a lottery game called Praline. It is government run and allows you to bet on different sporting events. A few years ago, some British guys in Toronto realized that the English soccer matches they were betting on had already been played well before the deadline to submit your bets had passed. Some government bureaucrat forgot to take into account the 6-hour time difference between Toronto and the UK. They could literally bet on games that had already been played. They managed to exploit this loophole for a few weeks and raked in tens of thousands of dollars over that time. It only ended because they couldn't keep quiet about it, and eventually too many people were exploiting the same loophole. I wanted to add that in most of the posts that I've read, a part of me feels badly for the person or company that's being taken advantage of, particularly if it is a small business owner. I think the best part of this loophole is that the government of Ontario was getting screwed over. Not often the little guy gets to do that. Usually it's the other way around. Taco Bell recently had a promotion for free tacos because of something to do with the sports draft or something. I don't really follow sports, so I don't remember exactly. I just remember that our local Taco Bell didn't have a limit on how many free tacos a single customer could get. So while I was at work, one of my coworkers sent her boyfriend to Taco Bell to get 40 free tacos, 10 for the each of us working on that shift. The Taco Bell staff had no qualms whatsoever fulfilling this order, but afterwards started limiting the free taco promotion to 1 or 2 per customer. Blockbuster ran a deal on games that was something like $20-30 a month to rent unlimited games 2 at a time. I modded my Xbox so that I could download the games onto the hard drive and wouldn't need the physical disc. So for $30 I rented close to 60 games and would download them onto my hard drive. It was awesome. Edit. Forgot the best part of it. Blockbuster was across the street and I could walk there. MGM Hotels Players Club, M Life, in Las Vegas. They kept sending me offers that had odd sequences in the codes, which I would poke at occasionally. I discovered that the codes were slightly different. For instance, FPG-011 vs FPG-012 for different status levels, offering varying levels of rewards. I ended up finding an offer for a free suite at the Bellagio with free $300 dining credit and $300 slot free play. One phone call from my assistant and my booking was confirmed. They eventually fixed the issue, but it took a while. I bought stock in the company I worked at once. It was a special deal for employees that we could purchase it for 1/2 the current value, but were not allowed to cash it in for 5 years. I spent $1,800 to buy 45 shares. A couple years later, it had a 5-for-1 split, meaning my 45 shares went up to 225 shares. At the end of the 5 years, me and my girlfriend, who later became my wife, were moving in together, so I figured it was a good time to cash it in. The 5 years had been up a few months before. My $1,800 investment cashed out for over $17,000. Where's the loophole? When tax time came, I got nothing from them for tax purposes. Being the law-abiding guy I am, I called them to find out. It took a couple days until they came back with an answer, but they checked with their legal department and it turns out that they were not required to report it to the eyes. Why? One thing I forgot to mention is that I'm in the US and the stock is not sold here. It was on the Copenhagen exchange. Since it's not sold here, they don't have to report it to the eyes. So I got that money tax free. I know I should have reported it anyway, but I called a tax man after that to ask him, and his response was, why would you want to report it? Oh me pick me. So at work we had to do a cleaning and organizing thing of our entire department, which is a whole floor of a building, and my manager asked for volunteers during a meeting. I like doing stuff like that because it's a valid reason not to do my actual job, so I raised my hand. When I looked around the room to see who else I would be working with, I saw no hands, just me. I became project lead that came with tons of responsibilities. Because they had envisioned this job for multiple people, both to dissipate the workload and for mutual accountability so no one could do anything shady, but it also came with one almost lame power. My manager said it was at my discretion what the office threw away or donated, so old things that have been obsolete and sitting around because they've always been there, out the door. Cool enough power to have, but while I was throwing stuff away, something cool but non-valuable caught my eye, and at this moment my manager's boss was walking by and I said, hey, I know it's against policy for us to take things from the garbage, but would you care if I kept this? To which she said, oh, sure, if there's anything we are throwing out that you want, go for it, giving me my second power. Sure, when used separately, not a big deal, but when combined, the office got real tidy, real fast. Back when the toll booths around here still had hoppers to throw change in, I found out about the attempt to pay rule, which basically states you only have to attempt to pay the toll in order to not be ticketed. So, rather than toss 1.50 into the hopper each time, I'd throw 2 or 3 cents in there and be on my way. 3 years straight, every day both ways, never a single ticket. Eventually they switched to just cameras and sending the bill to your house though. I guess a lot of people must have been using the same loophole. In the old days, before Hastings went under and just after they opened in my town, you could trade in 3 used games for any brand new one. This was back in the PS2 and Xbox days. But you could trade in any 3 games for them. So you could go dump old Dreamcast, N64, PS1, whatever. But the best part was you could just go grab 3 used PS1 games off the shelf for $5 or $10 each and trade them in. It was glorious, and I'm pretty sure when they had their going out of business sale, a few of my trade-ins were sitting on the shelf,